Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Thinking about the collection range and remaining sets and release order, and with all the news coming out lately, it's just completely changed my release order from what it would have been like, say, in January. I do love the news about Season 13 possibly coming sooner. It's something I've said for a long time, that we might get 13 sooner or later, and that I could see 13 coming before 16. Especially being 13's 50th anniversary later this year. I mean, if it's ready, especially if we are going to be saving the remaining black and white sets toward the end of the range, so they have more time to get animations completed and more time to do restoration work, because I'm sure those very episode-heavy seasons need restoration work, especially ones like 1 and 6 where the season's mostly intact. I'm sure those episodes need some work to get them up to Blu-ray standard as much as we can. So if they're holding the 60 seasons back, and there's only 9 seasons remaining, 5 of those from the 60s, that leaves us really with 4 color seasons to play with. And if 13's ready, why not just go ahead and release 13? I know a lot of people may be thinking 21 because they tend to alternate between decades. Not always. It has happened where we've had 2 seasons in the same decade before, such as 18 and 19 back-to-back. Those are both 80s seasons. Also 23 and 26, both 80s seasons. So it does happen. But typically they don't. But I could see them doing that here. Especially imagine getting a 1-2 punch of 7 and 13. 2 of the best seasons the show has ever done. And think about it. 13 would come out after Season 2 is aired. So if for some reason you don't like the new Season 2, and I'm not saying it'll be bad. Maybe it'll be really good. I hope it's really good. But if it's bad, you know, it'd be a nice palate cleanser for some fans maybe who, for some reason, Season 2 doesn't live up to what they were hoping it will be, was, whatever the correct tense will be on that at that point, I guess, was. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. You know, they might be like, oh man, Season 2 ended just like Season 1, no. And then we like get an announcement for Season 13, and they might be like, oh. So it might be a good pick-me-up for that. Again, I'm hoping Season 2 is good. The trailer looked really interesting for it. Got me intrigued. But yeah, and don't get me wrong, they could do Season 21 next. They might do Season 21 next and then wait and do 13 the beginning of next year. Because they do seem to be, the past couple years, alternating Tom and John sets at the beginning of the year. From about 2023 on, like we got John, like in 2023 we got Season 9, John, then Season 20, then Season 15, Tom, and then Season 25, and now Season 7, John. So we've kind of been in that holding pattern where every other year is a Tom or a John in the first set for the year. But, you know, they don't have to stick to that. I think if 13 is ready to be next, then go ahead and let it be next. Why not celebrate the 50th anniversary of such a powerful season? Why not give us 2 strong seasons in a row? And then you could do 21 in the spring. And then you could do 11 in the fall if it's ready. And then you could do 16 next spring. And then after that, you could start rolling the 60s seasons out. The only 60s season I could see them rolling out before the color one's complete is Season 1. Because they might not animate Marco Polo. Because Marco Polo, I think, would just be hard to animate. Like, can you 2D animate Marco Polo? It's 7 parts. And then you have assets that you probably wouldn't be able to reuse anywhere with so many costume changes and setting changes and guest cast. I just feel like it would be a lot to do Marco Polo in 2D animation. Maybe 3D animation. Although I don't think the 3D animation is there quite yet from watching Celestial Toymaker. Which that animation fits Celestial Toymaker well. I actually really like the animated version of Celestial Toymaker a lot. Shapeshifter Studios did a really good job improving on their work from Web of Fear. And if they make that kind of leap again to the next story, then that could be really impressive to see what they do. But they definitely got to get a more realistic appearance for something that's less of a fantasy nature like Celestial Toymaker. and more realistic take, a more serious story like a historical like Marco Polo would be. So if they're going to animate Marco Polo, it'll be a while. But if for some reason they decide just to do Marco Polo as a telesnap reconstruction, I could see season 1 coming sooner. But you start to get the impression that maybe they want to animate them all, because the talk coming out is, while they don't have a deal completely in place, as in everything's not signed yet, they have something in the works. It looks like it's going well, where they're going to be commissioning bundles of stories at a time. And if that's the case, the fact they're taking collection box sets remaining into account, that the fact that the collection series range impacts which animations are done now, that's interesting to me. I could see animations for Space Pirates and Wheel in Space coming sooner. I could see those being part of the same collection, the same order of animations, the same cluster of animations, let us say, because they could share assets. It's pretty much, because Wheel in Space, while being the season 5 finale, does have the season 6 crew, because Zoe joins that story. It's a Cybermen story that's going to sell, and it's all you need to get season 5 running. I think Space Pirates could do well too, because Space Pirates, I think its reputation really comes from it being mostly missing. The novelization is a great read. And it's a very visual story. And the fact that the one surviving episode, not a lot happens. To be fair, Space Pirates could have been 4 parts, let's be honest. And originally it was supposed to be, Bob had to stretch it out. But it is Bob Holmes, and I have a lot of faith in Bob Holmes. I just think this is a very visual story. I feel like if you took some liberties with the animation, say the Macroterra style, I think you could pull off a very visually impressive story, which could allow Space Pirates to get reassessed, much like Enemy of the World when it was recovered, or more much like Macroterra has been since it's been animated, because it's such a good animation. I could see those two coming soon with animations, and then the season 5 and 6 box sets coming soon after, although those still probably wouldn't be released until the remaining color ones had been done. And then I could see a bundle including the rest of season 3. Now, Dalek's Master Plan and Mission to the Unknown might actually be its own standalone thing, but I could definitely see the Massacre and the Mythmakers and maybe even the Smugglers being part of a package deal, to be honest. The Highlanders still might need some 3D animation. Give Shapeshifter Studios something to do, as long as they can kind of up their game a little more. They did a really good job upping their game from Web 3 to Celestial Toymaker. If they can make that kind of leap again, I definitely would like to see what they bring to the table. Would I rather have Highlanders or Marco Polo animated next from them? Ooh, that's a tough one. Both are good stories. I'd be happy either way. I'd probably be happier with Highlanders just because I love Highlanders, but I'd be happy either way. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think the next set will either be 21 and 13 or 13, and then the other one will be the set after, then 11, then 16. I think the last 2 color sets will be 11 and 16. So I think it'll either go 13, 21, 11, 16, or 21, 13, 11, 16. I'm fine either way. I would rather get 13 this year. I want another Tom Baker on the shelf, and I want 13. Who doesn't want 13? I've waited a long time to have 13 on this shelf. Isn't it weird that the very first season in the collection range was season 12? And here we are almost 7 years later, 16 sets later, and we still don't have either of the surrounding seasons. Like, we don't have 11 or 13. 12 is just stuck between 10 and 14, which it has been for a while, actually, because 10 and 14 have been out for a while. So we got 12 first, and we've never got either of its surrounding seasons. It's about time that season 12 got one of its neighbors, and I would love to get 13 in. I do think we're going to get some updated effects. I talked about this before. They have mentioned that someone's mentioned they're doing restoration work on the original Loch Ness Monster model. So they're probably going to do much like they did with Horror Fang Rock and use some practical effects with some CGI like they did for the Rutan puppet, which works really well. I was very impressed with the updated effects for Horror Fang Rock. And I like the idea of using good practical effects and then optimizing them a bit with some added CGI. I love a nice blending of the two. it makes it pop a little more. So I would enjoy that. I think with that, I don't think Terror of the Zygons needs updated effects, but I think there's some stuff you could do with it. We'll probably get the Tales from the Tardis version of Pyramids of Mars, as well as the original Omnibus, which is one of the highest viewing figures Doctor Who ever had, with over 13 million. Matter of fact, that was the highest Doctor Who ever had up to that point, actually. I think the Pyramids Omnibus, the original one. I would like if they could do the updated effects for Pyramids of Mars for the full story. They probably can't afford to do that. But it would be really awesome to me if they could go back and do those same updated effects. Because those updated effects did look good for the whole story. That would actually be pretty neat. Probably can't do that. Probably not in the budget. But I'd enjoy it. And then if I could just pick the one story that I'd like to get updated effects. Most of you know I've talked about it before, Planet of Evil. Because there's definitely room in Planet of Evil for some updated effects. I mean, the effects in it are fine. They're good. They hold up well. But there's definitely some room for updated effects. You get some laser blast in there, I believe. We know Prowley likes his updated laser blast. There's some model work at times you could do some stuff with. The werewolf guy, when he gets hit and he's kind of spazzing out and getting ready to split, you could do some stuff with. When people get killed by the thing and their body just kind of fades away and then reappears as like a husk, you could update that a little. Planet of Evil definitely has some updated stuff you could do there. You don't have to touch the jungle set. The jungle set's already perfect. I heard someone on the merchandise forum suggest updated effects for Android Invasion. I don't see that myself. I think the effects for Android Invasion are fine. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they did them for it, but I don't think it needs it. Brain of Morbius, I think the effects are fine. Seeds of Doom, maybe doing some updated effects for the adult Crinoid, like when it's on the house at the end in the latter episodes. Yeah, I can see you updating that, making it look a little scarier. That's really about, man. And is there a tank in that one? I know the rough-looking tank is in Robot. Is there a rough-looking tank in Seeds of Doom? I forget. But yeah, there's a little you could do there. But mostly Planet of Evil. And then I'd love to get full versions of Pyramids of Mars. And apparently they are doing Terror of the Zygons, which will be fine. I look forward to rewatching it with them. And then after that, I think we'll get 21 to finish off the 80s, probably in early 26. The main story I need there with updated effects, as you know, is Resurrection of the Daleks. I need my updated effects for Resurrection of the Daleks. If I do not get them, there will be a very cranky video. My announcement video for season 21, when I talk about the announcement, will be a very unhappy Prowl. Because Resurrection just needs them. The only other story I would have argued that needed them more was Day of the Daleks. And even then, that's close. I'm glad Day of the Daleks got them. And that version of Day of the Daleks, I love the fact that even the BBC seemed to agree that's the definitive version, because that's the version they uploaded to YouTube. Resurrection needs that. There's just so many times when not having those updated effects hurts it. It really needs them. And there's a couple other stories in there I guess you could give it to. I mean, you could redo the updated effects for Planet of Fire, because the actual updated version of it we got's terrible. Well, pretty bad anyway. Warriors of the Deep could use it, but why waste the time and the money? I don't know if Caves would really need anything. I think Caves holds up pretty well on its own. Really just Resurrection of the Daleks. And then after that, I think we'll get season 11, maybe late for 26. They should have had plenty of time to get episode 1 of Dinos ready. Hopefully we get some updated effects for Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Personally, I'd also like them for Planet of the Spiders. Look, BBC, it's going to be the final Pertwee set. You could splurge a little and give me 2 stories. I know you're having to spend money on the restoration work for episode 1 of Dinos, and that's the right decision to get it looking good. But if you have some money left, and, you know, and the extra features are going to be a little light, then give me not only updated effects for Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which is a must, but give me some updated effects for Planet of the Spiders. That's the 2 I need. I mean, Time Warrior already has them from the DVD, and they're fine. They're not perfect, but they're fine. Although the house blowing up at the end looks a little dated. They could update that, actually. Monsters of Peladon doesn't really need them. It's fine. Death to the Daleks doesn't really need them. It's fine. So really, if you can only do one, Invasion of the Dinosaurs all the way. But if you could do a second one, if you can afford a second one, give me some updated effects for Planet of the Spiders. That'd be great. Man, and it would just kind of maybe bump up Pertwee's final story a little more. And then after that, all we'd have left in color is 16. And that could be the last one to get updated effects, if anything, in it, if season 16 gets any. Because I don't really think the black and white seasons need updated effects. Matter of fact, I think they've only done updated effects for one black and white story, and that was the Dalek invasion of Earth, a long time ago. Because the 60s stories being in black and white tends to lend itself well to those. So I don't really think they'll get updated effects, especially considering the restoration work and all that stuff going into those sets. So I think season 16 might be our last chance to get updated effects. Pirate Planet. I know some people might be thinking, but what about Power of Crow? Power of Crow could use updated effects, but we would need an Avengers in-game level budget for that. Yes. To fix that story. That story's just rough. If they do Power of Crow, then do something else. I'm not saying you have to do all 6 stories. Not all 6 stories need it. Androids of Terra looks fine. The Rebus operation doesn't need them. Stones of Blood, there is some stuff you could do. To be fair, there is some stuff you could do. But it doesn't really need it. It's fine. The story that needs it is Pirate Planet. Well, and Armageddon Factor. If they did do Power of Crawl and Armageddon Factor, Prowl wouldn't complain too much. There would still be grumbling about Pirate Planet not getting it. But I do think Armageddon Factor could use some updated effects. There's definitely some stuff you could do there with the timer counting down, with some of the spaceship model shots, some of the laser effects. I definitely think there's room for some updated effects. And it might just give Armageddon Factor that season finale punch it doesn't quite have. I like the Armageddon Factor. I do think it's a little underrated, but I do agree. I do understand and agree with some of the criticisms labeled against it. It is, as a season finale, it's a little underwhelming in places. And I just feel like some updated effects might tighten it up a bit and let it punch a little more. But if I could get anything, it's Pirate Planet. Pirate Planet's really only flaw, to me, is some of the effects. Some of the effects, well, that and the part with the Light Force dying. Light Force, it's weird. It's really weird. Yeah, it's really weird. But some of the effects, like there's laser blast in there. There's you could do a little work when they're in the air car to make that look a little cleaner. When the Mintiats use their force field powers, their Mintiat powers sometimes, like to knock the Doctor out or to create force fields. There's some cleanup you could do there. You could make the battle between the Bird and K9 look a little better. You could just make the Bird look a little better, and the battle between him and K9 look better. The part when he takes the wrench and smashes it on the machine, you could really do a lot with that. It's really the only thing holding it back is the effects for me. It's a great story. It's a great execution of the story, performance-wise, directing-wise. It's just the effects really holding it back. So if you do updated effects for that, I feel like updated effects for that would work better than even with Power of Crawl. I think you'd just get a better result. I mean, Power of Crawl, you might turn a 4 out of 10 story, even though the script is fine. Not great, but fine. The execution never worked for me. You might turn a 4 out of 10 story into a 6 out of 10 story, whereas with Pirate Planet, you might turn a 8.5 or 9 story into a 9.5, 9.7 story, you know? So I would do Pirate Planet. So that's kind of how I would do the remaining sets, what I think we might get, what we might get for updated effects. And then it'll be curious to see where we are by the time all 4 color seasons releases, where we are with animation news, if we've gotten any by then, and then we'll be in a better place to kind of predict when we'll get the black and white seasons. But I do think they're going to be holding those toward last now. So I want to know what you think of this video and the stuff I've talked about. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support. So do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated. And I also have a P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. Love getting fan mail. I have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there and a link to my Amazon UK wishlist down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.